Okay, YouTube, we're going to talk about anti-transgender bias in dating yet again. And so, unlike before where I talked about exclusionary preferences, which again aren't preferences, they're just biases that you're trying to pass off as, well, I'm just not into that. This time we're going to talk about the idea that transgender people need to disclose their trans status to somebody they're being intimate with. Now, obviously, if you are non-operative or pre-operative, and you want to be physically intimate with somebody, it's probably a good idea to disclose, because if you don't use your words, they're going to find out anyway. But if you are a post-operative trans person, you don't necessarily need to disclose. But what a lot of critics will say is that the trans person is being deceptive or dishonest. They're lying about who they are if they don't disclose their trans status. And so regardless of kind of, your genitals as a trans person, that statement says a lot about the person who's making it. Because they are basically saying that being transgender, is a lie. That a trans woman presenting herself as a woman, going out on dates, maybe going home with a man, is withholding the truth from him. She's denying him all the information, the ability to consent to intimacy. And so if you unpack all of that, one, that person just called transgender people rapists, which is really fucked up. But they're basically saying that being transgender is a lie, which means that a transgender woman is not actually a woman. And by not telling a man or her partner, woman, whoever, that she's transgender, she's being deceptive, which is transphobic, because transgender people are their gender. But the reason that they say this, the reason they try to guilt the transgender person into saying, oh, okay, well, I'll disclose if it's that serious of an issue, is that they don't want the responsibility of screening for and broadcasting their bigotry. Because the other option, rather than having the transgender person disclose, is to ask the question yourself if you care so much about it. And so the transphobes will say, well, there's only 0.6% of the population that's transgender. Why should I have to ask about it? Oh, so because you're the majority, it's up to the minority to make sure that we cater to potentially anti-trans bias in the population. No, that's not our job. If you care so much, you should ask about it. But then they say, well, you know how insulting it is to a woman to be asked if she's transgender or not? I'm like, well, no, I don't, because I don't consider being transgender an insult or kind of less than. But maybe it's how you ask the question. Because I'm sure if you went up to a woman and you said, hey, I don't like to date transgender people, but I'm interested in you. Do you happen to be transgender? She's not necessarily going to be offended by that question. She may think less of you as a person, but isn't it your responsibility to broadcast your bigotry? If it's a transgender person's responsibility to broadcast their trans status? This way everybody can make mutually informed decisions about who you really are? Oh, no, it's not, because you're actually just a hypocrite who wants everybody to accommodate you without being willing to provide any accommodations whatsoever for anyone else. And that, my friends, is transphobes for you in a nutshell.